Welcome everybody to episode 212 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson. I guess we get to just start it off by saying hopefully we've got a new listener because he's not going to have much else to do for the next 12 months. Jason Tatum is cooked.
Yeah, hello Jason Tatum. Hello our friends in America. Hello Adam.
Good evening.
Hello our friends in Canada, Germany, Philippines, New Zealand, and of course our home and hosed Aussies. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And we should probably say hello to peeps at Central Coast Radio. Hello to Angelica and Adrian.
Yep. Hello. Hello to listeners on Central Coast Radio. People watching us live on YouTube.
Hello.
Awesome.
Who else can you say hello to?
Well,
Adam Silver.
Adam Silver. Maybe if we do say hello to Adam Silver, he could drop some draft picks our way, some number one picks.
I'm just worried he would start controlling things behind the scene, though. Try and manipulate the outcomes of events.
That's true.
Change our run sheet.
Yeah, that's it. He might. Never know.
Yeah. Alrighty. This week we're going to talk about the Jason Tatum injury. We're going to talk about Adam Silver fixing the NBA draft. We're going to talk about the Pacers series, which I think they absolutely deserve some flowers. We're going to talk some Michael Jordan today, and this is actually not us just frothing on some old school cards. This is actually new, up-to-date news on Michael Jordan. Nuggets OKC. Now, depending when you listen to this, we're recording this Sunday night. The Nuggets OKC series is ending tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m. Australian time. So,
however you like, it's ending.
I am primed. It
will be over, but yeah.
I'm not a morning person. I'm pretty sure most people out there know that of me by now, and I'm genuinely thinking about getting up early to watch this game. That's how excited I am for it. I think without much further ado, we get into the Tatum injury. Unfortunately, he has torn his Achilles. It was a non-contact play, which is very characteristic of that type of injury. I actually thought maybe it was a bone break, because he sort of looked to me, he was grabbing the front of his leg, not the back. And he also did look to you like he was in a lot of pain.
Oh, yeah. It was like pain in one foot and the other foot, just pushing him around in circles. He was not feeling pleasant at all.
Yeah,
like he was actually like spinning on the, like just...
I suppose. I was more thinking about his like initial reaction. It didn't look like he was in... Anyway, look, it's really, really unfortunate news for him. I'm actually sad is probably not the right word, but I just think this NBA playoffs has really been influenced by injuries, and I think that the Celtics were absolutely, the favorite, or at least the second favorite at the very worst, depending on...
Before this series started, the Celtics would have been heavily favored.
Yeah, that's right. Depending on where you look at it, you'd probably say either OKC or the Celtics, and now it just seems to me that we've got three teams that could genuinely win the whole thing. And maybe from one perspective, you say, actually, that's more interesting because it's more fun when there's, more teams available to win it. But at the same time...
Well, there's five in the running still.
Okay.
Well, so, Denver could win at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow.
Yeah, so I definitely think that... Do you know the funny thing? I actually think the person who's benefited, or the team that's benefited the most from this, is Denver.
Interesting.
I just feel like they don't now need to do anything special. They just need to sneak past...
They need to do
OKC.
They need to do something pretty special to beat OKC at home.
Sure, but they just need to sneak past them. You would then assume they can handle the Wolves.
I'm on a different wavelength here. I actually think the Wolves are the best poised team to take it all.
Sure, and that's a fun storyline too, isn't it? Which have also, they've benefited from it. And then I think the Nuggets could then handle... I'm going to assume the Knicks are going to come out, but imagine if the Pacers. Just outrun the Knicks. So... For me, there's so many now more interesting scenarios that's going to play out. Yeah,
there's a lot of narratives at play. I'm on for a Pacers Wolves final, but I'm also on. I think
that's an upset finals, to be honest.
Can you imagine this? Knicks versus Timberwolves. That's the ultimate who won the trade.
Yeah, okay.
DiVincenzo and Randall versus Cat. Who won the trade?
I feel like we talk about Adam Silver controlling a narrative. He would want the Knicks in there for obviously the massive market.
Yeah.
I don't think he really wants the Wolves in there.
Why not? It'd be the ultimate underdog. They beat the Lakers. They've done their work. They've got rid of the Warriors. They're
imagine the bravado of Anthony Edwards if he wins a championship this year.
It would be awesome.
I just
Would be
cannot
awesome.
imagine the things that will come out of this guy's mouth
But
after
think
that
about the
happening.
Minnesota Timberwolves have had a week off, right? To recuperate, to recover.
Yeah.
And Denver and Oklahoma City have been beating the absolute snot out of one another.
Yeah.
Whoever comes out of that series is going to be exhausted versus a very fresh Timberwolves, and they're very well balanced. So I don't know. Anything could happen. Same in
Yeah.
the East. Like, this is a Thibodeau-led Knicks team that has 6 players on it, and he's run them
Playing
all.
their starters when they're up 20 points. Why was he
Exactly
doing
right.
that?
Because he plays everyone to death, and they're not
Yeah.
quite there yet. But this Indiana team, on the other hand, will run them off their feet, and that could be the narrative.
Yeah.
It could go any way. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's fun. It's definitely interesting to me.
It's different
All
to
right, so
Celtics versus Lakers.
Yeah, that's right. Let's do predictions from here, though. Who do you think's going to make it to the finals, and who do you think will win it? Just for a bit of giggles.
I actually think Indiana will try and run New York off their feet, and I think they might catch them. So I'm going to I'm going to go with the Indiana versus Minnesota finals matchup.
Okay. I think Knicks are the better team, so I'm going to go with the Knicks from that series. And then I'm just going to stick with the Nuggets just for the fact that, for me, they're the most known current quantity that's left in the playoffs.
Most recent
and
champion.
I would also say, now that you've said everything you've just said, this could look like a terrible prediction in 2 weeks' time. So, but I'll live with that. I'm totally fine with it. This is from ESPN PR. NBA playoffs on the platforms are up 15% from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Knicks Celtics on May the 12th had 6.1 million viewers, and peak audience was 8.5 million viewers, which is
That's
up
nuts.
50% from last year. Most watched program of the day across television and in all key demographics. So I think why that's important is because in the last 12 months, or let's call it the last 2 years, there's been a lot of chit chat around how the viewership for the NBA has been down. And I think in my opinion, where they've struggled a lot with this is like, now they're on so many different platforms. Like, you can watch them on YouTube, you can watch them on NBA.com, you can watch them on all the different cable channels that they've got. And I think also too, people consume content in pieces. So for example, on Instagram, where people are now just posting up, short clips.
Yeah, true.
And not that we're a media entity in any form, but very occasionally I'll take a video of my screen and post that up of a guy doing a dunk.
Yeah,
those videos get, I would say, more, if not to the top of our views in terms of clicks.
Engagement.
So people love those really short highlights of basketball.
Consumable highlights.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting to me. Also, what I think is a little bit interesting, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, they've just signed a huge new television deal. NBC is coming to the table. I'm really excited. I'm going to hold that for later on, though. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that we should also talk about cards, which is at the end of the day, 8 minutes into the show. This is what we're here to talk about. Let's talk Jason Tatum. Silver Prism, PSA 10. All time, he's down 40%, which is a very interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
In the last month, he's down 45%. So he peaked a month ago up to $1,200. In that meantime, every sale has been down. And he's had 3 sales in the last couple of weeks, and they're all on a very steep downhill. 772, 700, and 656. We've been using Jason Tatum the last 12 months essentially as a measuring stick for the hobby in terms of someone who's generally quite reliable. He's got an excellent resume, and now we need to turn that into he's an injured star that's going to be out for effectively all of this playoffs and all of the next regular season, because if we call this a 12-month injury, he's not going to be back until the start of the playoffs, at the best case scenario.
Best case scenario, worst case scenario, he's not touching the court all next season, and you're probably not going to risk him in the playoffs. So probably do another preseason. My question is with the card value side of it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on leading up to the injury? There were already concerns about him choking in the playoffs. Do you know what I mean? He'd already 2 games in a row, first 2 games of the series against the Knicks, they gave up a 20-point lead, so there are already question marks over Tatum, and then he does his Achilles. Does this put his cards in the toilet?
So all that stuff about him not being clutch and all this stuff, I really don't buy into that. I think that the reason why the NBA is an 82 game season and then series have 7 games is so that the best team eventually wins. And basketball, is a little bit of a hit and miss type sport. And so
Yeah.
I really hate that sort of like ultra short overreactions that we sometimes get to like one game of a series or even two games to a series. You know what I mean? So I'll give him a bit of a pass on that. So I've actually earmarked this in the run sheet. So this is probably a good time for us to thread this in. I was really keen to see how they would play without Jason Tatum. And I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
all you idiots who were like, oh, the MVP of the finals last year wasn't Jason Tatum. It's actually Jalen Brown. Okay, great. Jalen Brown, now you're the number one. Like, take this team to a championship. They won one game and they lost one game. I think it's incredibly unfair of me to say, oh, because Jason Tatum didn't lead them to the championship, he's a failure. No, that's not what I'm saying. Like, and I would never say that. But at the same time, he had the opportunity. Okay, so this is a game 5 box score of 9 of 17, 3 from 5 from 3, 5 of 8 free throws, 8 rebounds, 12 assists. That's actually a damn good stat line, isn't it?
That's crazy, isn't
2
it?
2 turnovers, 2 personal fouls, 26 points, plus 28 in the overall plus minus.
Yeah.
Look, if any team was actually going to win a championship without their number one, actually, I'd say the Celtics. They are so deep.
Yeah.
I actually think the person who let them down was Porzingis because, to me, he's got a lot of talent.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of talent, that guy. And it's like, if someone was going to step up and put 25 points up on the board, it should have been him. He finished the game with 1 point, minus 12 in the plus minus. So I think, actually, to me, that says a lot how this game played out. Look,
pretty ordinary.
I watched about half of that game and I turned it off. There was nothing in it for me that was like, it was a blowout. The Celtics won by 20 points.
Not like game 6, which was the opposite.
So can we just go back to Jason Tatum for a second?
Yeah.
So I think the question is where is he going to dip down to? And I think the perfect comp for this is actually to Wemby. So let's look at Wemby for the last 3 months because this is an injured star that is basically, it was a season-ending injury. I think there's a lot more speculation on Wemby. So if I was expecting a big drop from somebody, to me it was Wemby. The last 3 months, he's down just 15%. So I will take that every day of the week and then some. So if we say that Tatum drops 15%, let's just take it back a little bit so it's not so. So he was trading at like 772. Let's go back before the big sort of rise. Okay, so he was trading around 650. So why don't we say 650 minus 15%? Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds reasonable.
So that takes us down to 552 USD. Okay. I think he's going to drop down to around that 550 mark. I don't think he's going to go anything
lower than that. Yeah,
no.
That's where it'll plateau.
Yep.
Like, I'm not saying it's going to tank. There's no way. There's no way I see Tatum tanking out, and there's no way I see Wembanyama tanking out. But until
the
they
one
return
that I thought
to the
was
court,
going to tank though was Wemby though, Ad, because I think Wemby attracts all those guys who come into the hobby and they just want to flip the current
flip. Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Whereas to me, Tatum is a bit more like you're a bit more of a connoisseur of the NBA.
Tested.
Yeah. And also he's tried and tested, and obviously he's won the championship.
Yep, he hasn't won a finals MVP.
Didn't he?
Hasn't won a finals MVP yet.
I mean, he won it. He just wasn't awarded it. Like, let's keep that. So, all right. The other thing we should probably talk about, if we're talking about Knicks and Celtics, is this Jalen Brunson card, the 1-of-1 Nebula that's recently sold for $97,000. There's been a lot of buzz around this card because people have dug up an old sale post of this.
That's funny.
When someone on Blow It sold it for $300 delivered. Yeah, look, this is the ultimate, what if in basketball card collecting, isn't it? Where you can buy something for $300 and then sell it at a later time for nearly $100K. Look, honestly, rest in peace to the person who bought that. I'm not going to read out his name, even though it's posted on there. My question to you is, when do you sell one-of-ones and when do you keep them? Because I think actually that's the real hobby-related question right now. What motivates you to sell a one-of-one? Particularly that. Like, why would you sell that Nebula one-of-one for $300?
I actually don't know what would motivate me to sell that. Like, at that stage, it's not like you're selling it for a couple of thousand. I don't know. Could be personal circumstance. He might have been.
Yeah, definitely
strapped for cash and $300. Surely there's a better option to sell than a one-of-one. Yeah, I don't know. It must have been personal circumstance, and that was the only asset he thought he could move.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously we're looking backwards in time.
Retrospective.
With the foresight of what's happening now. I think, to be fair to the seller, at that time he was on the bench behind Luka. And there was not a clear pathway to him having playing time. So
Yeah.
I do kind of get that. I think I'm just genuinely asking you, like, taking this out of a side, like, when do you keep one of
When
ones and
when
when
you
do you
move
move
them.
them on? Because,
I
you
think
know,
it's
I've got a
also different
couple.
because this is a rookie card, right?
Yeah.
How often do you get a rookie 1 of 1?
Well, Prism in particular, I think in other sets it's a little bit easier. Like, for example, Select is a little bit easier.
Sure. But still,
Recon, all
like,
those sort of lower end products, it's a little bit easier to get one of ones.
but
But
coming across a rookie card 1 of 1 of a
yeah,
decent player is not something you experience every day.
I know.
So,
Look, I think the answer for me is you probably hold it on until it spikes,
yeah,
even if you then hold on to some cards for too long. And I think I'm definitely guilty of doing that a lot.
holding for too long.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, I think that's probably what's in the back of my mind of like, I don't want to see happen is, you know, something go exponentially up. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I think probably for me, it's like, when am I happy to sell one of ones? I think when they're retired.
Yep. I mean, and that's the thing though. After their first 3 or 4
And it can
years,
be too late then.
but you
Yeah.
think about it. It's that after 5 years, what's the likelihood a player is going to blow up and break out?
You mean like Jalen Brunson?
5 years,
I think it was about 5 years he was on the bench
like
for.
five.
Yeah.
I'd say after 5 years, you're probably safe,
Yeah.
relatively. Most players are expected to take a leap on year 3,
So
and
he
that's
played
where
4 years in Dallas, and then it was his 5th year that he was then
broke
traded. And
out.
then,
Okay,
yeah.
so after year 5, then maybe
Yeah.
start
Why don't
thinking.
we call it 6 just to be safe?
But it is. It's one of those things. But Ant's done it in year 3. Cade was injured for a year, and now all of a sudden is Cade. He's a number 1 pick, of course. But I'm saying everyone wrote Cade off after year 2,
Yeah, I
2 or
don't.
3. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's a bit more clear cut, though. I feel like people still know in the back of their minds he was the number 1 overall pick.
So is Markel Fultz. Let's be fair.
Oh boy, poor
And
Marco.
Anthony Bennett.
Yeah. Alrighty,
God.
let's go to a break. Fast break trading cards. Let's do them first.
Let's
Fast
do
break
them
trading
first.
cards. Thank you so much for your re-up support. We should be saying this right now, shouldn't we? Go to fastbreaktradingcards.com. They are a Fanatics and Topps official partner. They're also a direct partner of the Collect Fest. So congratulations, guys, on your naming sponsorship rights to that festival. We're so proud of you guys, all the work that you've been putting into the hobby. Go down to 75 Tulip Street in Cheltenham, Friday 12 till 6, Saturday 9 till 5, Sunday 10 till 4. Contact them on Facebook, Instagram. Also, their phone number is on the website. All of the payment platforms are obviously available to you in store. $15 standard postage, $20 express. When you go into the shop, however, you'll find 2 lovely gentlemen who are very happy to talk hobby with you and also give you fantastic hobby advice in terms of buying supplies, sending your cards off for grading, buying singles, and also sealed boxes. Thank you very much to the guys at Fast Break Trading Cards. Adam, we are back. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, refreshed.
All right, this next one I'm actually pretty keen to talk to you about because we can talk about it in terms of a news story, and we can also talk to this in terms of previous coincidences that have happened, and also the conspiracy theory component of it too, which if you guys are listening at home, you all know how I enjoy a fantastic conspiracy theory when it comes to anything related to basketball and the Egyptian pyramids. So this is my second favorite thing to talk about in terms of conspiracy theories is the NBA. The Dallas Mavericks, with just a 1.8% chance at the top pick, won the NBA draft lottery Monday night, earning the chance to select projected number 1 pick Cooper Flagg next month. There was some scuttlebutt that he was going to not come back. It's been confirmed now that he's coming out and that the Mavericks have said that they are going to choose him. So I think there was also some funny memes going around that, you know, Nico would trade him or Nico would pass him up to draft somebody else. All of that can be put to rest. The Mavericks have actually publicly stated that he will be a Maverick. So that's kind of crazy to me. It's very exciting. Where are you at with the Mavericks having a 1.8% chance to win and getting the number 1 pick?
I'm gonna be the logical one here and say there was a ball in the bucket.
Yeah.
The fact that the ball dropped,
yeah,
so be it. Like that's why there's a lottery, right? Like X amount of balls go in, and there's an equal chance of one ball being pulled out. Some teams have more balls than others. But at the end of the day, it's a lottery. That's what happens.
Yeah.
Coincidence? Maybe. Conspiracy? Also maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, I think so. The conspiracy part of it, let's just feed into that for a second. So this is from NBA at ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron signs with the Heat in 2011. The following year, the Cavs win the lottery with a 2.8% chance of winning, and they choose Kyrie. In 2011, Chris Paul was traded from the Pelicans to the Clippers. In 2012, the Pelicans win the lottery, get Anthony Davis with a 13.7% chance. In 2019, Anthony Davis was traded to the Lakers, and the Pelicans win the lottery with a 6% chance. In 2025, Luka was traded to the Lakers. The Mavericks win the lottery with a 1.8% chance. So I think where the probability is reduced down is when you go 2.8.
1.8, 2.8.
Yeah,
13% chance is fair.
Yeah. And there are some extreme coincidences there. Like I feel like you can't.
Sure, the Pelicans.
not
The Pelicans
have this
go
conversation without
get rid of
Yeah.
Anthony Davis, move on from Davis, and bang, they get Zion. I see the narratives. I do.
Yeah.
I do. But
Yeah, it's an interesting one because that does imply that if you trade a massive player into a big market, then you would then be compensated with draft equity.
have you heard the Shaquille O'Neal story?
I've heard stories, but I'm happy to hear your story.
So
in this
I
context,
was watching
absolutely.
an Instagram reel, and Shaquille O'Neal's like, "I'm not going to tell you things are rigged. I'm going to tell you in 1991, before when I nominated for the draft, it was David Stern, wasn't he? At that point, that was head of the
Stern was
league.
still in power.
Stern
at that time.
was in
Absolutely.
power, and it goes, so Shaq, you coming to the draft? Yep. Do you want to go to do you want to play somewhere cold or somewhere hot? And he's like, I want to play somewhere hot. And that year, Minnesota didn't get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Orlando. No, it wasn't Charlotte. It was Orlando. Orlando, Florida, ended up with the number 1 pick in the draft after Shaquille O'Neal said he would prefer to play somewhere warm. So, and that was the Shaq story, right? Like, but maybe.
Yeah. So I think so that's the conspiracy theory part of it. Now let's talk the more logical part of it. And one thing that I have done the last couple of years is they've flattened out the odds. So even if you are the worst team, you only actually have like 14% chance to win, or 14.8 or whatever it is. But another way of looking at that is, well, actually you have 85% chance of not getting the overall number 1 pick. And so when you think of it in that sort of capacity, that to me makes more sense that there is a chance for a team to jump up, I suppose. And so it's actually so funny for me because a part of me is outraged that this Nico Harrison guy is an absolute clown, trades away a generational talent and then gets another one back. Like that actually really annoys me. But on the other hand, what also really annoys me too is when teams are bad on purpose and then they also get rewarded for it. And so if I had to choose between the lesser of two evils, I probably prefer that he goes to the Mavericks than he goes, for example, to the Washington Wizards, who in the last 10 years have only demonstrated repeat and complete ineptitude and just absolute atrociousness when it comes to everything related to the NBA. Like, you know, if there was a relegation system in the NBA, I genuinely wish that the Wizards just were relegated, honestly. Like, they have just been so terrible the last few years. And so do you really want Cooper Flag going to them and being rewarded for being so bad? So I feel like this is my own sort of hypocrisy here. It's like, how can I complain about Dallas getting the number 1 overall pick when I also don't want these bad teams to get it? So, for example, Utah, I don't think that they deserve to get the number 1 overall pick. They were losing games on purpose last year. Like that's bad for the product. I don't like that. And so maybe actually these guys flattening out the lottery odds really is going to change the way that, you know, teams are looking at it, because I haven't got these numbers in front of me, but the worst team getting the number 1 overall pick the last few years, like I don't think it's happened for 6 or 7 years now, Ad. Or maybe it's once in the last 7
like
years.
it's crazy. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to actually look up how many balls go into the machine.
So you can actually watch it. So the whole thing was broadcast on NBA.com, and I don't know if, am I ashamed to admit this? I'm going to admit it. So my TV watching for that day, I didn't watch a basketball game that day. I actually watched them take the ping pong balls out because I'm genuinely interested in all that sort of behind the scenes mechanics and minutia, because it's like,
it's pretty crazy.
I'm sort of looking for ways how they can like manipulate the system too. And it looks a pretty secure thing. I think there's times when the envelopes are only with particular people. So maybe they can manipulate the top 3 draft picks at that time. But other than that, I think the system is pretty robust. We put up a post on Sports Cards Nonsense, our Instagram and our Facebook. We got a whole range of responses. So maybe we could just read out a couple of the funny ones.
Let's do it. Where do we want to go first?
So I think if we go to the Sports Cards Nonsense one, James Hoffman, the lottery is rigged every year. Too many coincidences. And that's what I was talking about. It's like, how many coincidences do you need to then say, actually, this is an occurrence? Yeah. Picks done behind closed doors. Well, that's kind of not true, but that's okay. We aren't that stupid. Things like this is why the narrative, the NBA being fixed, stays relevant. Yeah. And so to take in that point is, we've got referees being accused of knowing what the lines are. So Draymond Green literally called them out on national TV about that the other day. He got fined $50,000 for that. In the past, we got Tim Donahue, known for fixing games. That was the referee that did that. So there is some like fix allegations when it does come to the NBA. And then, Patrick Ewing, allegedly there was a frozen envelope because they used to pull it out by hand out of the basket. Yeah.
Could be worse. Could have been a coin flip, right?
So that's the other interesting thing. So the Mavericks and the Chicago Bulls had a coin flip earlier in the day. The Bulls lost and the Mavericks won to get them into that spot that won them the lottery draft.
Crazy
That's a sliding doors moment for the Bulls. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? It's no. It's I don't know. I just
So Joe Rothke here, it's really not as crazy as it sounds. They've flattened the odds so much that the worst teams with the best chances still only have a 14% shot at the top spot. Dallas at 1.8% is not some sort of astronomical long shot compared to teams with the best odds. Atlanta had the 10th best odds last year and they jumped up to number 1 pick. Yeah, so that's right.
Yeah. Well, what's Devin Sasay? There's no such thing as a coincidence. 1.8% lottery chance. Yeah, I call shenanigans, especially after the revamp. They revamped the odds. After 1993, when Magic hit a 1 in 66 chance on Shaq.
Yeah,
but it is. So it's 66 balls, is it? One.
They did it differently back then. Yeah. These days they do it. It's a 4-number combination that comes out, and then the number combination then goes to the team. So it changes the odds, again.
So easier to rig it.
I think it's harder to rig it now. Yeah.
Looks flashy.
So the person who does the timer is facing away from the balls, and he puts his finger up when the ball comes out, and that's based on a stopwatch, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Norberto Tomasini. No, it's called odds. The Cavs getting the 3 number 1 picks was a bigger coincidence. I think, but that's the same conspiracy though, isn't it?
Yeah,
like it's the same conspiracy that the NBA can actually influence the outcome. Yeah,
agreed.
All right, let's go to our Instagram and read out our own listeners because I think that's pretty good. Watto211, 100% with a laughy emoji. A card paints 1,000 words. That is a fantastic Instagram handle. Unlikely does not mean impossible, and it does not need a probability theorist to get that. Toss a coin 100 times and you might have the same side 9 consecutive tosses. Would be interesting, though, to see a full list of teams who got their number 1 pick and their respective chances to have a closer look. Yeah.
45 cards. It does scream rigged, 1.8% chance. I personally think the live ball draw should be made publicly available like it used to be.
Well, it is. You can actually watch the whole thing these days, so yeah. Prime 110, 100% boys.
Yeah.
And then going to our Facebook. Oh, we got a few on here. This is nice. Thanks, everyone. If we sort this by all comments, we've got Sean Collins. Same thing happened when the Pelicans traded AD. Yep. Anthony Milne, nothing is coincidence. And we actually referenced that earlier on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. All comments. Hang on a second.
Ryan Miller, 1.8% isn't exactly miracle stuff. Like most conspiracy theories, they fall apart when you consider how many people would need to be involved.
Yeah, exactly. If it was rigged, where are those New York numbers since picking you? Yeah, fair. Yeah, look, I agree with a lot of this stuff. This is just the lottery changes working as expected. Shame for the Jazz. So blatantly tanking, disrespect the fans of the lottery. The lottery gods will go against you. We've got Ryan Jewell. Actually, feel sorry for the kid. going to get an undue criticism comparison due to the front office. If it were true Nico style, he won't even drag flag. It'll pick somebody else. Well, we know that's not true.
Anyway, thank you everyone for contributing to that. That was very, very fun. And I think any final thoughts on this ad before we go to a break?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Cooper Flag is worth the price Nico paid by selling his soul to get that price to come that ball to fall.
You think he did like a devil's advocate sort of soul
That's
selling?
it. Like on that Supernatural, he sold his soul to a crossroads demon to get the number one pick.
Actually, I tell you what, I'm going to finish this off here with a hypothetical trade.
Sure.
So this involves the Philadelphia 76ers. They've got the third pick.
Mm-hmm. So they're not going to do the Fultz thing again.
So this is how they and why they basically tanked out the rest of the year because they didn't want to give their pick up. So lucky that they didn't.
Oh, that's like, is that another conspiracy coincidence?
That's not a conspiracy. They tanked. Like there's no
to get the number 3.
Yep. Philadelphia receives Kevin Durant. Phoenix receives Paul George and the number 3 pick. Who says no?
Ooh.
Tell me that is not delicious.
Phoenix says no. They want more.
I don't know. I think considering what Mavericks got back for Luka.
Yeah, true.
They get a decent player and also a very good pick.
An injured decent player that plays in a position that they need, which is fair.
The problem for them is going to be the salary of Paul George. That's going to be the dead weight. So maybe you're right. Maybe another pick needs to go across too. Maybe couple 2 picks. Or
something. Yeah, give them a couple of picks back.
All right.
I like it.
All right. Let's do our next ad break, Adam. And I think we should do the Hobby Hangout.
Yes,
and
the Hobby Hangout is rapidly approaching.
It is absolutely approaching. Sunday, the 1st of June, 2025, 9 Nicholson Street, Carlton, at the Royal Exhibition Building. It is not called the Hobby Hangout this year. It is called
the Hobby Hangout XL.
XL, exactly.
Extra large.
Yeah. And Adam, I think we can now make our little announcement.
Yeah.
It is now confirmed. We've kind of known about this the last couple of weeks, but we were asked to hold it under wraps for a minute or so.
Yes.
We will be doing the paneling at this year's Hobby Hangout.
We'll be up on stage chatting with people, yeah.
Which we're very, very excited about, and we would like to thank Andrew for the opportunity. We can't wait for this. We're absolutely pumped for it.
Mm.
And just looking through their social media announcements, they've made more announcements. So Dane Swan is going to be there.
Yes.
Zach Merritt, and also Brent Harvey. So that is a huge, huge pull for the Hobby Hangout. Autographs and also photo opportunities for the guys there. So if you're a footy fan,
that's cool.
That is absolutely huge for you. Other announcements and also vendors that are going to be there on the day. Plenty of games are going to be there on the day.
Player One. They're running Magic drafts, aren't they? They're doing Magic the Gathering drafts or something like that. So there's going to be all kinds of stuff there. Yeah.
Interactions and innovations. Pikachu picks, palms off, on the cards, much, much, much more. Get your tickets. Go to thehobbyhangout.com.au to get your tickets. According to Andrew, he's anticipating it's going to be completely sold out. He said the tickets are selling very, very strongly at the moment. So he's very excited about how everything's panning out at the moment. So
I'm excited.
Not long to go, guys. Yeah, pick up your tickets. Come and see us on stage. We'd love to come down and say hi to you all. That'd be fantastic.
That'd be great.
Welcome back, everybody. It is time for our next segment, which is going to be basically just NBA.com playoff brackets. I think we pick the next series to chew over, Ad. We can talk about Pacers and Cavs.
Oh, give us the Pacers. Give us the Pacers.
All right. I think there's two things to talk about when it comes to the Pacers. Halliburton is obviously someone we have to talk about. I think that we can't go past this.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one too is Aaron Naismith. So if you could do me a massive favor, could you just break down Halliburton for a second, and I'll pull up this next story about Aaron Naismith.
All right, where are we? Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton. Well, look, I think there were questions on good old Tyrese at the beginning of the season.
Unfairly, to be honest. At the start of the season.
The start of the season, midway through the season.
When he was deemed the most overrated player in the league.
That was definitely...
I think that's when people maybe overlooked him in a pretty massive way. That will be my takeaway from that, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My view on Hallie at the moment is that he was phenomenal last season, and I forgot. I think after the Olympics and sort of he didn't feature heavily in the Olympics. Came back and it was kind of just going about his business this year would
Yep.
be the way I would describe it. Went about his business for the season, and then come playoffs, he has just exploded. And you've got that. You're right. The most overrated player tag.
Which I think is a bit unfair, to be honest.
I think he's quite fairly rated. In fact, we might be underrating that man's talent. I mean, a year ago we were comparing him to John Stockton, so I don't know. I feel like people forget very quickly the impact a player can have, and I for one am very glad that he's sort of stood up come playoff time with this very. We're going to stick with the overrated, underrated, very underrated Indiana lineup.
Yeah. All right. So I think from my perspective, he didn't deserve to get that most overrated player. I think that's the best way to say it. Like, just,
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to move on from that.
Yeah.
And I think for me, what's really interesting is how quickly the narrative can change on somebody, and not always for the right reasons. And I think maybe in card collecting, that's actually the best time to be looking at their price and looking at their values and saying, actually, what's going on here? Because sometimes people change prices for the wrong reasons. So they might not be injured. They might not be even out of form, and their prices are going down. And I think, Darren Fox was someone that was like subject to that a while ago. Cade Cunningham was injured and went down. And then when he came back and played well, his prices didn't recover until he was in the All-Star conversation. And so
for sure.
There was this really long window on Cade where, you could have picked him up, for really cheaply. So I think, there's that part of it. Darren Fox at one point, silver PSA 10s were like $100. There was a point in time where he was sub 100, and that's post Gary V, spruiking him up. So I think, people who took advantage of the down period in Halliburton, you've probably done really well. I think let's look at the last 2 years for Halliburton, because for me, this is the most relevant part. And then we will zoom in to the last month. Yeah. So at the very start, he was in that sort of $300 range. He went all the way up to $500. And my recollection was we spoke about him at 500 and were pretty okay with it. All the way down to 300, a single price up at 345. Let's just ignore that for a minute, and then basically just slowly dribble down. There is nothing in my mind here that explains this in any sort of shape or form. Down to $180. Let's just call it 180. That's the easiest way to do it. Zooming into 6 months, he then has 56% growth. Zooming into 3 months, he is exponentially up. So he's up 75%. So he was trading at about $200 March 2025. Now he's up to $400. Look, this is really tough for me, because where I'm sort of at with Halliburton is I think he's a very volatile asset at this point. I think there's nothing that you can tell me looking at his numbers that's going to convince me otherwise. And so I think buying him at the moment is probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
And I would probably wait this out. So what's the flip side to that argument, though? He goes to the finals and they win the championship. What's he going to sell for then? 1,000?
Is it? Oh, I don't know about the 1,000. Maybe that Tatum Tatum All-Star level 700.
700. Okay. Yeah.
750. The base, the benchmark.
But the reason why I say 1,000 is because SGA is currently trading.
Yeah. True.
At 1,077. He was up to 1,300 not that long ago.
So when the Denver Nuggets end up winning that series, is he going to be the most overrated player in the league and the MVP at the same time? Imagine that.
I've got no idea.
Most overrated MVP. There we go.
Look, this is probably a good time for us to segue into SGA, and that's probably like fully legit. So this is actually an interesting stat. This is one player that is now selling at or above their COVID peak. So in COVID, SGA peaked at 1,475. He recently was up to 1,292. That is incredible. How many players can you say are actually selling at the same price as what they did during COVID? That is incredibly unusual.
That is nuts. Yeah.
That is very unusual. All right. For all the people that say they hate PSA and all the rest of it, here is a flip that actually could work out for you. you can buy a raw SGA for $250. The prices are a little bit up and down, between $200 and $250 at the moment. Send that off to PSA.
Get a 10.
PSA 10 currently
Just get a
trading at
10.
$1,000. Yeah. How do you explain to people why they should use PSA in 10 seconds? I feel like we just did it.
PSA is the only real recognized brand for getting maximum value.
Yeah. All right. We just segue
PSA
from
10 though.
Halliburton. All right. Let's go back to the Pacers series in true you can't comp this fashion.
All right, we're back with Tyrese Halliburton.
Actually, I was going to say, let's do Andrew Nembhard. So we're talking about why the Pacers are so successful. Their pace is absolutely amazing. Their defensive versatility is, they've done a really good job of understanding the current rules of the NBA and how to work within those confines. And they've also got shooters. Andrew Nembhard is currently shooting at 51.1% from the 3-point line. And that puts him at number one all time of all shooters. This is wild.
So he turns into Steph Curry when he gets into playoff mode.
Well, or Seth Curry, and Seth Curry's at number 5 at 46.8. Myers Leonard at 4. Myers Leonard is the guy who was ranting anti-Semitic stuff on Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever.
Goodness gracious.
He's out of the league now. And your boy, Rui Hachimura, actually turns into Steph Curry at 48.5. I don't own a Bob Hansen in my collection. I couldn't even tell you who that gentleman is, to be honest.
I know he shot 50% from 3.
We've spoken about Nembhard on the show before, so I think now's a good time to check in some of his values. This is from 130point.com.
I'm guessing he's not on.
He's not on card letter, mate.
He's not on card letter.
Red Prism Signature, obviously that's a sticker, PSA 9, that sold for $22. A Prism Draft Picks number to 75. So that's a collegiate uniform.
Mm-hmm.
That sold for $22. So that pickup of the Prism Red for $22.
Not a bad.
That's way better than a collegiate at $22. Yep.
Fair.
Nembhard Optic Autograph Fast Break variant for $25.
Mm-hmm.
Mosaic Blue Autograph for $24.
Okay.
And this is probably my favorite so far. The Contenders Autograph, 46 out of 99. That is the horizontal card. PSA 9. $79.99. So,
okay.
Look, a very middling prospect there. I think the prices are pretty reasonable at the moment. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to market. Honestly, this is something that, just people aren't watching this guy's game. I think it's really as simple as that.
Yeah.
Are you a Pacers connoisseur, honestly?
Not really. I have seen them play a little bit. I do. I enjoy watching them play, though. I don't know. At the beginning of the season, I thought they'd added by not subtracting, basically, or adding to their list. I thought they came out in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They went out to the Celtics, very admirable performance, and then they've run it back. So the Pacers are actually, I don't know. I think there's a lot more legitimacy to their claim than people have given them credit. They've landed the 4th seed, and now they're playing like they've earned it.
Like the Charles Barkley comment about ESPN only talking about the big teams. I think this is where the Pacers fall into that. It's like how much exposure over the last 12 months have the Pacers had, and now they're in the last 4 teams. Yeah. And so I think that's my part where I'm kind of like, maybe the major media does need to do better every now and again.
Because acknowledge good performances, right?
Yeah. Like they've been there and they've been good. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. I can't believe it. We're already up to our next break. Did that just go really quickly or was that me?
Very quickly. Very quickly.
Right. All right, let's go to our last break and then we'll finish off at 10 minutes or so. US Sports Cards Australia, thank you very much for your ongoing and also re-upped support. Please go to ussportscardsaustralia.com.au. I recently had a phone conversation with Ross and we discussed at length some of the challenges and successes he's currently having with his project, which is ComCA. If you're not aware of it, it's a card consignment service where you send all of your cards to Ross. He'll put them up for sale. He'll have them listed over multi-platforms.
Yeah.
He'll sell them, package them, post them out. The money goes into your account. It's simple as that. His selling point is that within 3 business days, people will have the cards into their hands. That's what he's trying to achieve. And if you contrast that, if you contrast that to ComC, which is the American company, It might take you a week or 2 weeks to get the cards into your hand. So,
Yeah.
that's the difference. So the challenges that Ross is currently having is that he can't get cards in quickly enough. He needs more inventory. So at the moment, he's running a promotion. If you use the promo code, you can't comp this. So on your submission sheet, just write that down anywhere.
Yep.
Ross will do your submission for free. There's normally don't quote me what the price is. I think it's 10 cents a card, something
Yep.
along those lines. Currently, Ross is waiving that fee so that he can encourage more people to get their cards in.
Upload.
Yeah.
Send it all in.
Get your submissions into ussportscardsaustralia.com.au. Click on the 3 little noodles. Then you need to click on Check Out My Cards Australia. And then there's a submission form. Yep, there you go. It's 6 cents a card, actually. But that's being waived at the moment when you write, you can't comp this.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much, US Sports Cards Australia, for your ongoing support. Alrighty, Adam, we're back. This is our last segment. Let's get fired up.
We're in the final stretch. Let's go. Let's keep it going into the final term.
Yeah. All right, let's see.
Well, we've got one more series, haven't we? And
we've got a few things here. Let's try and do these quick hitters. All right. eBay automatically recently charged my account. This is something that's been coming for a little while. I think this is a very positive thing. If you are now bidding on cards with the intention of not paying for them, basically you can't do that anymore. So your account gets charged automatically. So I think for me, the pros of this are it's fantastic because it hopefully will stop people from bidding up cards they're not going to pay for. Also, too, for someone like me who doesn't check eBay every day, it might be 1 or 2 days before I've made payment, whereas now it's all sorted out for me. That's the pro. The cons are you have to make sure that your postage address is set the right time every time. So you now need to check that as you're putting your bids in.
Yeah.
No, so for example, for me, if I'm buying from someone in US, I'll use my US address. In Australia, I'll use my Australia address.
Yeah, for sure.
And so normally that's something in my head. I would process that at checkout as opposed to
Yeah. Okay.
bidding, right? So that's something I'm going to need to get to.
Okay.
Where are you at with this? What do you think about it?
I like it. I as somebody that has been been exposed to the people commit to buy and don't pay.
Yeah.
This is nice. This is like assuring that look, somebody committed to paying X amount for an auction.
Yeah.
They've committed to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's I think it should have come sooner.
Michael Jordan is coming to broadcasting. He is going to be live on NBC. On a scale of 1 to 10, how pumped are you for this?
I'm pretty pumped.
I'm 15 out of 10 pumped.
I'm 8 out of 10 pumped.
Oh
no!
You are a hard man to please. All right, okay, fine. So if Jordan is an 8, who is a 10 for you when it comes to an announcer?
I don't know. Like I don't know how I feel about Jordan commentating. I haven't heard Jordan before.
Okay, you are in charge of NBC. You've got unlimited budget. Who are you going to put in to be a commentator?
All right. It's that's a tough one. I'd literally get recently retired players. So I don't know. I like listening to the likes of. I'm looking at the coverage team. Yeah. I like Steve Nash. I really like Steve Nash.
He's a smart guy.
Is that
funny.
Blake Griffin?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear Blake Griffin. Dirk's going to be interesting. I think Dirk's going to be very interesting. Is that Carmelo Anthony?
Carmelo Anthony, Udonis Haslam's with the black sunglasses. That took me a little minute to work out. Dwayne Wade.
Wade, Steve Nash. Yeah, there's some talent there.
So I think Jordan is going to rip people new assholes like live on air, and I cannot wait. Like he's a full narcissist who doesn't have a lot of patience for people who are not good at their jobs. Like I genuinely think he's going to be like.
Is this going to be potentially?
He's going to be like Stan. So they took Stan Van Gundy off the air because they basically said to him like, "You're too negative," right?
Yeah.
Then they brought him back at a later time. I think Jordan is going to do what Van Gundy does, but like on steroids,
and it's Jordan. So who's going to argue with him?
Or on cocaine and any other substance that he may or may not partake in, right? So that's like one thing. The second thing is, why is he doing this?
Gambling fees.
Right. So he's recently. So this is like the scuttlebutt that's going on at the moment. He had to sell the Hornets because of like some bad debt, allegedly, and now he's like out doing a paid gig. Like I actually.
Do you know what? Where's the conspiracy next? He's going to start signing cards again.
Yeah, I feel like if he starts signing, that's when you know, like, actually
Shit's
he's
hit
in
the
trouble.
fan, yeah.
I actually don't believe he's in financial trouble. Like, I find that so
I think he's
difficult
just
to
bored.
believe.
You think he's just
Yeah,
bored?
I think he wants something to do. Like, he's now not running the Hornets anymore. And by the
Okay.
way, he probably got out at a pretty good time, to be honest. He made an absolute load of money off that.
Yeah, that's
So,
fair
like,
enough.
you know, I find it so hard to believe he's got debt. All right, let's move on before we go into too much conspiracy theories about Michael Jordan. This is from Card Ladder, eye-catching sale, 2007 chronology Michael Jordan. This recently sold for $79,000. Okay, I like this so much. This might be the best card that we've spoken about in a very, very long time. And this is actually also to the perfect time to talk about or think about some other cards that have sold recently. So we've spoken about some pretty big cards that have sold recently, like some ultra modern stuff. Earlier in today's show, we spoke about the Brunson 1 of 1.
Yes.
That sold for $97,000. So the question I've got to you, let's just comp these cards directly to each other. What would you rather have? The Jordan patch autograph for $80,000 or a Nebula Jalen Brunson for $97,000?
I'm taking the Jordan every day of the week.
This is the thing about basketball cards that, and we spoke about this on our last show. It's like sometimes we get so bogged down in the ultra modern, like we actually
getting a relativity. There's a level of relativity to it, right?
Yeah, but
okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this? Like, how do people justify that purchase when you can get that Jordan card for that much when they've just spent that on a Jalen Brunson? Like, even like for me, I feel like I'm immersed in this.
Yeah, but any other player
second.
So a Brunson Nebula from this year isn't going to fetch 97,000. There's the rookie factor.
I'm saying yes in agreement to you. Not as in, yeah.
There's a rookie factor to it, and I hear what you're saying. I definitely, like, as I said, I'll take the Jordan, but there is a rookie factor to certain cards. That's an investment for Brunson winning multiple championships, I think.
No, I just think that the ultra modern versus the 90s stuff, like, this is 2000s. Let's just call it ultra modern to 2000s.
Sure.
I think that argument is really interesting to me because to me it's very hard for me to get my head around and comprehend it.
So the funny thing there, and I'll say that I think you've made a really insightful point because we'll call this Nebula. That card is going to plateau and maybe go up a little bit. That Jordan in 30 years' time, is going to have a 5 in front of it or something. Do you know what I mean?
I just think it might just sort of go up a couple of percent each year, whereas that Nebula, I think that could go down.
It's a plateau. Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, those older cards of those absolute legends of the game are destined to track up.
Yeah.
Because the legend of the game is, it's not like Jordan's stats are going to change.
I mean, unless he does something.
Well, it could go down. Depends how he goes on NBC.
That's right. He could do something outlandish on TV. You know, like
confess to doing something that he. Yeah.
No, just rail on people on TV. You know.
Yeah.
I think, all right. So obviously we're out of kilter here in terms of our series talk, but this is a Nikola Jokic versus an SGA. So this Jokic rookie signatures Prism Gold. Select on-card autograph, BGS 9.5, 10 autograph, sold for $13,665 versus an SGA, also select autograph. That's the horizontal, not the vertical though. Gem Mint 10, that sold for $12,676. Now this is getting really interesting for me because you've got somebody who's obviously done a lot versus someone who is all on projected time. Look, I'm probably going with Jokic just for the fact he's done a little bit more. Also, it's a vertical versus the horizontal.
Oh, I'm going with Jokic, no doubt.
Yeah. The sale time was actually very comparable too. March 28 versus April the 3rd. So, yeah, interesting one.
Yeah, take the Jokic every day of the week.
Neither of those two are bad buys or sells, to be honest. I think they're both, if you sold it for that price and you bought it for that price, I think you've done really well. I don't see any, true sort of losers on that one. This is the one that I was also wanted to talk to you about. So we got a Jalen Williams black 1 of 1. That sold for $4,900 versus the Jamal Murray BGS 9.5. That sold for $4,400 black select. So that's a card versus card as close as you can get it.
That's tough. What do you take here?
So I think for me, I actually think Jamal Murray is the better player, but this is the example of when someone is just more hobby valuable, and that's Jalen Williams. We spoke about this kid last week in the exact same context, so I think
Yeah.
the rule also applies here. Jalen Williams is just popular,
Yeah.
and people think he's got a lot of upside. I
Yeah.
think the question you have to really ask is like, how much of this is upside versus true reality? And so, are you selling him at the peak now? My gut
Yeah.
feeling is probably like these people are making very shrewd sales at the right time.
Timing's everything with sales like that, for sure.
We need to give a little bit more love to the Joker. This is from NBA on ESPN. Nikola Jokic leads all players in total points, rebounds, assists, and steals in these playoffs. Do we need to say anything more?
Well, there was a post on Instagram earlier in the week after, I think it was game 5 or game 4, and it was it showed the Jared Leto Joker, which is not a very good Joker for anyone that is playing it. It's like, this
You
Joker
didn't like
is
him?
well, no, and he played like the Joker did in game 5 and didn't do so good. And then it was which Joker's going to show up. So obviously Heath Ledger showed up for game 6, and let's see if he shows up again for game 7. Nicholson Joker for game 7.
Which is your favorite Joker?
Nicholson's my
Really?
I love Ledger, but Nicholson's the first one that I saw. So they're the creme de la creme.
So I used to collect the Batman cards and the Heath Ledger. Sorry, not the Heath Ledger. The
Jack Nicholson
one.
The
So
89
obviously,
Batman. Yes.
yeah, like that's got a soft spot in my heart. But at the same time, one of my
Ledger.
favorite movies of all time is The Dark Knight. Like, it's crime noir, gritty action. Like, it just speaks to my soul. It's this dark, yeah.
And that's why the Jared Leto comment was made about the previous game where he played like trash.
I didn't mind Jared Leto though.
He definitely isn't top 2.
I think my problem. Okay, we're segueing hard right now, but how many Jokers and Batmans do you need? I don't need
My number 3 is Mark
I don't need
Hamill.
3 Batman.
My 3 is Mark Hamill as the
Yeah,
Joker
that was
in the animated series.
Okay, we are segueing hard now. I watched that series with my kids recently. I was like back in my childhood. It was fantastic.
But there's a lot of different Jokers.
Yep.
Could be Adam West, Batman, like the 60s Batman.
Yeah. How many Batmans do we need?
How many Jokers do we need? Denver needs the Joker.
All right, we got to be quick here. This is from Daniel Whitehead. He posted this on Sports Card Addicts Australia. Definitely not our content, but I wanted to give this some love. I knew it would be difficult getting a family pick with these. Rude word, we can't say that. A hunt years in the making. Tops, please, no more. And the horizontal downtown from this year can get effed as far as I'm concerned. Thanks to everyone who helped along the way. If you can't see this picture at home online, he has in his personal collection, they're all PSA 10s too. LeBron James downtown from 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, all in PSA 10. I think the correct question now is, which one would you choose yourself, Adam, to put into your PC?
Which one would I choose?
Yeah.
And I've got some Lakers ones too, so it's tough.
The artwork on these is just mint, isn't it?
It is pretty
While
amazing.
you're choosing, I'm going to read my favorite comment out of this. This is from Matthew Holman. Single word, moist.
I am going to go with the 2022.
Okay, the jump shot?
Yeah.
I'll go with the 2021 because he's doing that sick dunk that he does. I like that one. I think in terms of the action shot, I like that one the best.
Okay, yeah, no, I like that. Yep. I'm trying to also feature the background, like take consideration for the background. But you're right, I like that. That's a nice one too.
All right, I was going to finish off with the Draymond Green story, but we already touched on this really quickly. This is from Shams. NBA's fined Draymond Green $50,000 for comments questioning integrity of the game officials, referring to the 5.5 spread number.
Yeah.
He was alleging at the end of the game they were going to make a call to give the other team the ball back to get an extra shot to get the spread. But look, I don't know. That's a tough one. All right, let's finish off with a future trade. This is kind of fun. I'll let you pick this one. There's an Instagram post there, Ad. We've already spoken about the Philadelphia Phoenix one. Why don't you pick a trade on there and we'll run through that and then we'll finish off for today.
I want the Giannis trade. Give me the Giannis trade.
Giannis
to the Spurs.
All right, this is pretty complicated, and I think this is probably not going to happen, but that's still a fun one to talk about. Giannis to the Spurs. Bucks get Stephon Castle, Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, the number two pick. Favorable pick of Milwaukee, first round pick. Pelicans get the 14th pick
and
a 27 first round pick.
And then the Spurs get Giannis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen.
I think my problem for the Bucks is like there's no sort of clear stud coming out at number 2 this year, or allegedly. I'm no like draft, but the quick look I've had look through the draft boards, it's like, would you actually do that to not get a star back?
Yeah, true.
Unless you think Castle's going to be.
Nah, I don't think you do. I don't unless you really got high hopes on the number 2 pick.
See, I actually wonder if you put De'Aaron Fox into that spot and then say you take Harrison Barnes and you take Keldon Johnson out to make the salaries work and also the number 2 pick. That actually makes a bit more sense in my head because then you can actually say, look,
they need the guard. They need Fox.
But I think Castle could play Fox's minutes. This is actually what I worry about the Spurs team at the moment. It's like Fox and Castle is pretty much the same player, but Fox is getting paid a way lot more.
Yeah, true. They can probably make the money work. I still like your Kevin Durant with the Kevin Durant for Paul George one.
To be fair, I didn't make these up. This is from CBS Sports.
Instagram post. But I still like the posing the question.
Yeah,
because obviously Kevin Durant moving is going to be a big question.
Surely he's on
this
the move
season.
This year.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you to. Oh, we had fan mail this week. I forgot to mention this. Thank you to people who sent us fan mail.
Oh yeah, thanks for the reviews.
Yeah.
Like if and for those listening, if you're listening through a platform like Spotify or a podcast or any of those platforms where you can leave us a review, we would really, really appreciate it.
So I don't know who the person is because it's basically done anonymously, but what it says is just found your podcast and YouTube channel, love your content. That is from Silver Spring in Maryland, USA. So thank you so much. You absolutely made my day getting a message from America.
Really humbling. Yep. Awesome.
Goodbye, everyone.
See you guys next week.